We start with section 3 of IELTS Reading General. The way we tackle section 3 is very different from the way we tackle section 1 and 2. If you want to ace section 3, there is no way to do it without at least skimming through the passage or reading parts of it. This is especially true if you have list of headings as one of the question types, which is a pretty common question type actually. So the way we start section 3 is the same as we start section 1 and 2. Just read the heading. If there is any subheading, if there are any headings within the passage, read them. So in this case, it is a visit to the world's coldest town. Wherever I see a word which has first letter capitalized, it's a proper noun. I don't spend any time trying to figure out how to pronounce it. I actually don't even think much about it. It's name of a town, that's it. Proper nouns matter only if they are part of your questions. Otherwise, they don't. So I've just read the heading. From that, I know that it is about the world's coldest town. What I do next is just look at the question types. I won't read any of the questions. I'll just look at the question types. One question type I have is list of headings. And another question type that I have is complete the information or fill in the blanks. So where list of headings is concerned, just by looking at it, I know that I'd have to go through most of the paragraphs more or less thoroughly to be able to find the headings properly. Where fill in the blanks is concerned, there are two things I know about this. The answers are usually in sequence. And second, if there is a heading given to fill in the blanks, the answers are usually within one paragraph or maximum 2 paragraphs. So the heading of fill in the blanks says why this place gets so cold. That is something I'll keep in mind. If I find the reason for cold anywhere, all of these answers should be in that area. Another question that is often asked is, do we do list of headings first or do we do the other question types first? Both methods have their pros and cons. If you do list of headings first, you already would have gone through most of the passage and finding the other answers would be much easier. If you do the other question types first, guessing list of headings would become easier. My suggestion is, if you're short of time, do the other question types first. And then you may be able to guess at least few of the list of headings. In IELTS Reading General, the way we handle section 1 and 2 and the way we handle section 3 is drastically different. In section 1 and 2, we just read the headings and we straight away jump to reading one question after another looking for the answers. However, in section 3, if you want to ace it, you need to go through parts of the passage. My preferred way is reading the beginning and ending of every paragraph so that I get an idea of what the whole passage is about. So I'm going to start reading this. You don't need a sat-nav to drive to this place. What you'll notice throughout is that I don't focus on any kind of names. Because as I've mentioned before, they only matter if they're part of the question. Otherwise, I won't let these big words distract me. So I've just read this. Clearly, it is about driving to that place. I'll move to the end. For hour after hour, wintry wonderland was bathed in crisp, clean sunshine, something about conifer trees. It seems to be a description of the drive, although I cannot be sure. It could be the description of the place. Although because it says for hour after hour, I have a feeling it is the drive. But I'm just going to leave it at that. Next one. As we left the flat plain, the road began to twist. It was about the drive. So the drive is still being explained. End of this paragraph. It was immediately obvious against the snow. Trees emerged from the strange haze. So these are just descriptions. There's snow, there are trees. There are certain punctuation marks, such as this dash, which help us figure out what parts to focus on more than the others. I've discussed this in detail in another video. The link to that should be on your screen now. And I'll also leave a link in the description of this video. The next paragraph. Despite the magical ambience of the Siberian wilderness, its reputation for hardship hit me every time I climbed out of the vehicle. Climbed out of the vehicle. Whoever is writing this has now reached the place. So the first 2 paragraphs are about the drive. Ending of the 3rd paragraph, a place of such searing cold that it bites through multiple layers of clothing. This is a quiet little town. 550 inhabitants. Ending. Reindeer herders spent the summer on the banks of this river. So this is a short description of the town. The temperature when I arrived was this much, not particularly cold. Ending. Lower temperatures have been recorded in Antarctica, but there are no permanent inhabitants there. I've just read till E. I'll start from F. Day-to-day life in this place presents certain challenges during long winters. Ending of F. It's one of the small number of civic buildings in the center of the town. Beginning of G. The power station provides winter heating. Ending of G. Hats come in variety of furs. H. Its two shops keep a decent stock of basic food in tins and packets. Ending. A typical meal I was offered consisted of thick horse soup. Spring is the best season here, I'm told. And ending. But residents I spoke to said they wouldn't live anywhere else. What I've done till now is I've read bits and parts of the beginning and ending, not complete sentences even. But what do I already know? I know that the first two paragraphs are about the road journey to that place. Description of the scenery there. This is where the person has reached. He's talking about how cold it is. D is short description of the kind of place it is. E talks about the temperature, how low it is. This one starts day-to-day life challenges, something about the buildings there. This one I think is a continuation of buildings or the facilities at the place, although it ends with description of clothes. This one is about food and shops, and finally talking about the best place and how the people like living there. Practice doing this quite a bit. Even if it is a topic that you're not familiar with, it is doable, and it really helps you find your answers quickly. Where list of headings are concerned, if you have just done this, you're usually able to guess the headings, or at least guess maximum of 2 headings for each paragraph, because now you know the structure of the whole writing. If you try to look for the heading just by reading one paragraph, you don't know what is coming later, so the chances of making mistakes increase. Let's work on these lists of headings now. Paragraph A. Actually, without reading the paragraph, if I just look at the headings, having just read the beginning and ending of each sentence, I should be able to eliminate a few headings. For example, various sources of supplies, I don't think is paragraph A. Effects of going outside, no. Past and present, no. Because first 2 paragraphs are talking about the road journey there. Contrast in landscape, could be. Animals that survive cold, I don't think so. But in any case, we don't want to guess. We want to know for sure. So what we do is we start reading the paragraph. In each paragraph, we start reading a sentence. Wherever we kind of understand what the sentence is saying, we stop reading that sentence and we move on to the next sentence. Another thing we'll do is wherever there are names of places, we just won't read the names as such. So I'm going to start reading paragraph A. You don't need a sat-nav to drive to this place. From something you cross a river. The journey takes 2 days of hard driving. Landscapes, frozen rivers, untouched snows, forest, beauty, penetrate the heart of Siberia, reach the coldest inhabited place on earth. The beauty surprised me. It isn't known for its pleasant appearance. It's always billed as a place of hardship. But for hour after hour, it was bathed in crisp, clean sunshine. So what it is talking about is that although the place is known for its hardships, it is known for the fact that it is very cold, there was sunshine there, and then there was silence and snow also. Keeping this in mind, let us look at the list of headings we have. It's not about supplies, it is not about going outside, not about past and present. Contrast in landscape, could be. Animals, there's no mention of animals, there's no mention of location of the place. Keeping out the cold, not really. Most probably this would be where the clothes are mentioned. Not the only challenging time of the year, there's nothing about which month it is. Better than its reputation, could be, because it is known to be a very cold place, but this paragraph says that the beauty surprised the author. Very few facilities in buildings, no. More snow than anywhere else in the world, no. I think the answer is 9th, but I'm a little confused between 9th and 4th. If I'm unsure, what I do is I write my preferred answer in my question paper. Obviously, in my answer sheet, I won't be writing 2 answers. But because I'm a little unsure, I won't be crossing out any of the options. Let's start with paragraph B now. As we left the flat plain, the road began to twist and turn. Untouched hills, some mountains. Beneath the snow-clad peaks, the slopes became steeper, the valleys deeper. Down in a valley, we stopped to look at a hot spring beside the road. It was immediately obvious against the snow, a spot shrouded in heavy mist. Trees emerged from a strange haze as ghostly silhouettes. Now, this is one of the difficult ones. However, there are certain answers which are clearly not there. This is not the answer. There is no mention of supplies, no going outside, no present or past. Contrast in the landscape could be. The mountains and the valley, there's a contrast given. Contrast is two opposite things being talked about. Animals, no. Affected by location, no. Keeping out the cold, no. Not the only challenging time of the year, no. Better than its repetition, no. Nothing about buildings, nothing about more snow than anywhere else in the world. It is clearly about a contrast in the landscape. So from this, I know that this was 9th, I was already thinking, and this is the 4th one. And because I'm sure, what I do is I cross out the ones I have already done. If I'm even a little unsure, I won't do that. If I'm unsure and I cross out any heading, I could be making 2 mistakes instead of 1. Moving on to paragraph C. Despite the magical ambience of the Siberian wilderness, its reputation for hardship hit me every time I climbed out of the vehicle. Within less than a minute, the skin all over my face began to feel as if it was burning. If I wasn't wearing 2 sets of gloves, now I'm going to skip parts. Lost feeling of fingertips, learnt very quickly not to draw too deep a breath. Cold air, lungs, coughing. Siberia in winter is a world barely fit for human habitation. Searing cold bites through multiple layers of clothing as if they aren't there. Once again, what it is not. It is not various supplies. Is it about going outside? Could be, although I'm a little unsure. Past and present, not at all. Animals, no. Affected by location, no. Keeping out the cold could be, because it is talking about clothes and how cold it is despite the gloves, etc. Nothing about which part of the year it is, nothing about buildings, and certainly nothing about more snow than anywhere else. What we see here is that just as it is in multiple choice questions, in list of headings also, it is as much about elimination as it is about finding the correct answer. Some headings you're just able to cross out because that thing is not talked about in the paragraph at all. Now that I've narrowed down my options to just 2nd and 7th, I'll just consider the 2 options more carefully. Is it about keeping out the cold, or is it about the effects of going outside? It is about leaving the car, stepping outside, and the feelings after that. So I'm going to go with 2nd. I'm going to write 2nd here. This one, by the way, I'll cross out because it's 9 for sure. And I'll cross this one out too. We'll start with D now. That's a short paragraph. It's a quiet little town, world's coldest, 550 inhabitants, power station, school, 2 shops, small hospital. Originated as seasonal settlement, reindeer herders, summer on the banks. So it is about what the place is like now and how it started, the origin of the place. Again, certain headings it just cannot be. Supplies, it's not talking about. Past and present, yes, it could be. No animals mentioned, no location mentioned. Keeping out the cold, no. Time of the year, not really. The summer part is mentioned, but it is mentioned when they're talking about the past of the place, what it was. Very few facilities in the building. Again, buildings are mentioned, school and hospitals, but nothing about what kind of facilities there are. So that cannot be the answer. More snow than anywhere in the world, not really. So it is clearly 3rd. As I said, work as much by elimination as you work with finding the correct answer. It reduces the chance of mistakes. We start reading paragraph E now. The temperature when I arrived was minus 45 degrees, not particularly cold. A number of factors combine to explain the record low temperatures. This immediately reminds me of the fill in the blanks. It talks about why the place is cold, and number of factors is basically the reasons why it is cold. I'll keep this in mind because this is where I'll most probably find the answers to my fill in the blanks. It is far from the ocean. In addition, the town sits in a valley. So I'm just reading the beginning few words of every sentence to see what it is talking about. There's a mention of some mountains, a plateau. As the cold air sinks, it accumulates in a valley. There's little wind. The average temperature in January is -50. Lower temperatures have been recorded in Antarctica, but no permanent inhabitants there. So I'll start with the headings again. The first one is various sources of supplies, not mentioned, no. The next one, animals, no. How the place is affected by its location. Yes, this could be the answer because it is all about the geographical location of the place and how mountains and plateaus and valleys are affecting how cold it is. Keeping out the cold, no. Challenging time of the year, no such mention. Few facilities in the building, it's not about buildings at all. More snow than anywhere else in the world. This is a mistake a person could make because it is talking about it being the coldest place. One could say it has more snow than anywhere else. But we can't make such inferences from the given information. It has to say clearly in the passage that it has more snow than anywhere else. Just because it is coldest does not mean it has the maximum snow. And it is not the coldest, by the way. Antarctica is the coldest, but nobody lives there permanently. Anyway, the answer clearly is sixth, which is how it is affected by its location. And I'll cross this one out. It goes without saying, if you're not able to figure out the heading of any of the paragraphs, what you do is you write the options that you think it might be. If I were unsure about maybe paragraph E and I thought maybe it could be 6 or maybe 10th, I'd just write 6/10 in my question paper, in the rough paper, not in the answer sheet. And I'll come back to this later. I just won't cross out any heading so that I don't make any mistakes because of it. In any case, we are sure about this one, so we're going to leave it there and we're going to start with F now. Day-to-day life in this place presents certain challenges during long winters. Hardly any modern household conveniences. Water is hacked out. There's a river, chunks of ice, giant ice cubes are stacked outdoors, carried into the house one at a time. Lack of running water, no showers or baths, flushing toilets. Since 2008, the town school has enjoyed luxury of indoor toilets, however. Small number of civic buildings in the center of the town that are linked to power station. We start looking at the headings now. First one about supplies, no. Animals, no. Keeping out the cold, no. Not the only challenging time of the year. I could have mistaken it to be this one had I not read the not part carefully. Because it is talking about long winters, but then there is no comparison to any other time. And it is certainly about the challenging time of the year and not the only challenging time. Very few facilities in buildings. Certainly it could be this one. More snow than anywhere else? No. So the answer is the 10th one and I'll cross it out. Paragraph G now. The power station provides winter heating in the form of hot water. Many houses lie outside its range. Fuel is plentiful enough in the surrounding forest. Everybody owns good boots. Hat made of animal fur. Boots are usually made from reindeer hide. Since air is poor conductor of heat, the skin makes excellent winter footwear. Soles give added insulation. Hats come in a variety of furs, including fox, raccoon, etc. This could certainly be very confusing if I don't read parts of the sentences, because a lot of animals are mentioned here. But the animals are mentioned to tell about how their fur, their skin, is used to make footwear, is used to make clothes, hats, etc. So it is certainly not animals that survive the cold. Supplies, no. Keeping out the cold, yes, because clothes and hat and boots are used to keep out the cold. So the answer to this one is 7th. H now. Its two shops keep a decent stock of basic food. I'm immediately thinking of the supplies, but let's read the rest of it. Locals also have do-it-yourself options, hunting, trapping, ice fishing. Being self-sufficient runs in the blood. Their diet relies heavily on meat. Unsurprisingly, given the weather, everyone eats heartily. A typical meal I was offered consisted of horse soup, etc. So it is certainly various sources of supplies because that's the only one that makes sense. Not the only challenging time of the year, no. Animals that can survive the cold. Again, animals are mentioned but more as a source of food rather than the animals which survive the cold in that area. Finally, the last one. Usually in these passages, the first and last paragraph are slightly different from the rest of the passage. First paragraph is some kind of an introduction and last paragraph is some kind of a conclusion. Although in this particular passage, the first 2 paragraphs were kind of the introduction because both of them were talking about the road trip to that place. Talking about this one, spring is the best season here. The snow melts, river flows, it's short. The summer can be uncomfortably hot. Forest becomes boggy, mosquitoes. The climate certainly wouldn't suit me, but the residents said they wouldn't live anywhere else in the world. This is certainly a tough one. Because out of the 3 options that we have, the only one that makes even a little sense is the 8th one, not the only challenging time of the year. It does make a little sense because it talks about summers being uncomfortably hot. So not only winters, even summers are bad and there's just a short spring. But as I said, it's not the most obvious option. On the other hand, if I look at even the other headings, there doesn't seem to be any other heading which would fit this. So just to sum up, where list of headings are concerned, try to understand what the whole passage is saying. Putting every paragraph in context of the passage helps you figure out the headings better. And work by elimination as much as you work by looking for the correct heading. Sometimes figuring out that this is not possible at all helps you figure out the headings more easily. We are just left with the last set of questions now, 37 to 40th. We had already identified this paragraph where we expect the answers to this one to be, because this is talking about the number of factors why it is cold, and the heading of the set of questions talks about why it gets cold. So I'm just going to start reading this. It is a long way from any something which would prevent the temperature from falling so low. So we are thinking about some kind of a common noun here, something which would prevent the temperature from going so low or which would prevent this place from getting so cold. Here are a number of factors. It is far from the ocean. We have found it immediately. Long way from any ocean. So this is where 37th is. The town is located in a dash within a plateau. Plateau is a word I remember reading, so here it is. And the town is located in something within a plateau. So the town sits in a valley below the general level of the plateau, which in turn is enclosed on all sides by some mountains. So the answer here is valley, and here it is. The plateau is surrounded by something. So here it is a plateau and it is enclosed. Enclosed means surrounded on all sides by mountains. So 39th is mountains. Because there is not much something, cold air collects in the town. Because of lack of something, cold air collects in the town. So since I found 39th here, I'll start looking after that. As the cold air sinks, it accumulates in the valley with little wind to disturb it. Little wind, there is not much wind. And the answer here is wind. So it is the end of our reading test. Hope it helped you. All the very best.